here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. We are inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Cafe Kubal here with you and here in your community, 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, and inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital, as well as their mobile cafe that will come to your place of business in your community, and the local delivery that will come right to your doorstep with no delivery charge if you live within Onondaga County. So take advantage of the opportunity and head off to Cafe Kubal today. With snow on the ground, I'll be going over there to get the DT special. I got my own drink there, which I am extremely, extremely grateful to Matt Goddard for, and I'm very excited to go get my pumpkin spice chai today with my buddy, and I'll get mine with almond milk. You can get yours however you like it today. You can get it hot or iced. I will be getting mine hot today, as that I believe it will be 32 degrees outside this morning. So feeling like winter coming through the fall. So with that being said, inside of MonPawsPopcorn.com is what's popping. We're into the, not a and not one of, the Fantasy Football Power Hour, brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub. I got my guy here with me, Mr. Mike Sofka, once again of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com and of our joint group page on Facebook, which is Winning Fantasy Football. So with that being stated, I am honored to bring him into the show. Mr. Sofka, how goes it today, my good sir?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's not 32 degrees down here. It's nice. Short sleeve shirt. You know, you could use a light jacket if you're out on the coast or something. But pretty much it's beautiful. It's beautiful weather here today. It's 70 degrees. Sun's out. Guns out. We're ready to go.
All right. Well, with sun's out, guns out, and being ready to go, let's talk about really quick here. I want to make mention of this. We've done this in past weeks, but I want to make sure that we do this really quick before we give you the advice. I want to shout out our winners here that we can celebrate in the Wake Up Call Fantasy Football Challenge leagues. So I do want to give shout outs to our 3 leagues in Central New York, brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub. I want to shout out our Marywood Alumni League from my alma mater of Marywood University. And I want to give a shout out to the league that Mike and I are celebrating our 10th anniversary in, that I started back when I was working at ESPN 1080 The Team, and when we started everything at Hooters. And so a big shout out to our 10-year anniversary Floridian League. So I do want to give my congratulations out there for NFL Week 10 to our winners, the Lando Lagoon, my cousin Joey in that one, Meatball number 1 as I call him, Buck Hammer's team, as well as Feeling Like $1,000,000, Wicked Lester, the Neon Icons, and Name Change in Progress. A big shout to everybody out there. And then with the Marywood League, I want to give a shout out to our Week 10 winners as well, as we get set for the playoffs that are coming up, believe it or not, in just a few weeks. So every move you make and every step you take, shout out to my guy Sting. Very important for you to be very, 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 very focused on the moves that you make from here. You should have been all season, but now it is truly the time to not make those missteps to the best of your ability as you get set for the hopeful run in the playoffs. Team SF saving Matt Ryan, Pennsyltucky Sam Bells, and Lights Camara Action all got victories in the Marywood League. And then to go to our leagues here in Central and Upstate New York for the Cuse Contenders League, I want to give a shout out to our Week 10 winners as well. And those Week 10 winners, my team, Wheelan and Dylan, Benchwarmers, Golden Bears, and Hot Chub Time Machine, all in the Cuse Contenders League. And then the Captains on Call League, shout out to our Week 10 winners in that league as well. And one of my team in this league is just, it's like a constant letdown. It's like it gets there, but it doesn't get over the hump. So I really got to spend some time with it. But we won this week, more Swift than your Gallup. And then Didn't I Get Lucky, Underdogs, and Team Cologne. Shout out to all of them in the Captains on Call League, brought to you on site, on location at the Wildcat Sports Pub. And then finally, the Gridiron Gurus. I want to give a shout out. All my leagues here in Central New York won this week. I'd like to make that a consistent thing, especially now more than ever. And Home for the Galladays, my team got the win. Wildcat Pizza Pub, Danny Tome, the owner there, got that victory. And the Binghamton team got their victory. And then Young, Free, and Singletary got a win as well. So with all that being said, Mike, we're hopping right into it. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss on the docket today as we're in Week 11 of the NFL. So as I will always do, I'll defer to you first. If I won the coin toss, I will be kicking to you. So with that being said, we have game number 1, Thursday Night Football, Arizona at Seattle. It is the battle for the nest, and it's an NFC West battle in the nation's best division as far as 4 teams record-wise. What do you have for this one?
Yeah, we'll talk about starting off the week with a bang. This is huge. The Cardinals are going to Seattle, and Seattle's undefeated at home, and the Cardinals are 3-1 away. Now, the Cardinals coming off that big win against Buffalo, and I call it a big win. That was an exciting game to watch. Kyler Murray showed out. And Seattle coming off that disappointing loss to the Rams, it's like they didn't even show up. So this game's going to be very interesting to watch. There's going to be a lot of fantasy money to be made here. Kyler Murray, like I said, outstanding game again. He's the number 1 quarterback on my rankings this week. You're going to see more of a split time in the backfield with Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake than we have in the past. Usually it's been one or the other. Kenyon Drake's, overcome injury, I think, now, but it's going to be more of a timeshare type thing, cannibalizing each other. I got Drake 26 and Edmonds 24 on the rankings. DeAndre Hopkins, just huge. I can't say enough about that play at the end of the game. If you haven't seen it, it's like Aaron Rodgers-esque Hail Mary into the end zone by Kyler Murray. And DeAndre Hopkins, surrounded by 3 Buffalo Bills, jumps up, high points the ball, and comes down with it. A lot of guys on this NFL team had never, even coaches on this team, were never a part of a dramatic play like that. The guys like Aaron Rodgers, that's old hat. But, that was a tremendous thing. And that might be the move. That might be the play to push the Cardinals over that hump they seem to, have trouble getting past each year. And this year, that Cardinal team looks really good. I look forward to them moving on here, but DeAndre Hopkins, number 2 on my rankings. Christian Kirk, 34. Don't really have a tight end to show up on your fantasy team, but I mentioned Kyler Murray, number 1 quarterback this week. Number 2 quarterback this week is Russell Wilson. Down week last week. Killed me in one league in particular. I won't get into that, but he's a number 2 quarterback. I think he's going to have a bounce-back week. I think he's more of the Tom Brady type guy where he's not going to have 2 bad weeks in a row. Chris Carson still dinged up. Not sure what we're going to see from him. Carlos Hyde should be back. Number 30 on my rankings. Look out for Alex Collins, made an appearance last week, the former Giant. Number 56 on my rankings. He should get some touches. And the real value here for Seattle, and the thing that's going to boost Russell Wilson, is Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, number 6 and 8 on my rankings, respectively. And Greg Olsen, 26 on the tight end rankings, and Jacob Hollister, 28. I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be an exciting game. I think, though, that the Cardinals on the road at Seattle could go either way, but I'm just going to go with Seattle simply because they're the home team.
Yeah, this is a really hard one to pick. I said at the beginning of the season that I thought, Seattle was going to be better than people give them. I had a feeling. I was like, I think this team's going to be more of maybe a pain, more of maybe a thorn in the side of some people out there. Just a feeling, just a notion of it, that there could be, something a brewing here. And Arizona has impressed me. They've done very well. I'm excited for what they have. This makes the game extremely difficult for me to choose. But, fantasy-wise, obviously on Arizona's side, with Chase Edmonds, he's relegated to a flex position just because of the fact that I can't really lean on him and trust in him to, do anything spectacular. It's not that I think that he's incapable of having a big play here or there, but it's the consistency. And it's the, looking down and he got you 1 point or he got you 4 points that, is a level of concern for me right now. But, the reality of it all is I do think he's worth putting out there as a flex. I just don't lean on him for, game-winning anything is how I would really look at it in the, when we look at Arizona. But, obviously the value lies in Kyler Murray. It lies in DeAndre Hopkins. I shouldn't have to tell you that, but I will. So, you got to play Kyler Murray. You got to play DeAndre. You saw that last play that probably maybe saved your fantasy week. Shout out to the left guard on the team, Justin Pugh, who's blocking for Kyler Murray, Syracuse Orange alum. So, really for me, I would tell you Kyler Murray and DeAndre with a flex at Chase. That's ultimately what I see on Arizona's side of it. On Seattle's side of it, they've been dealing with these injuries. They've been dealing with a lot of injuries to their backfield, and that's been an issue fantasy-wise. And who do you pick up? Do you trust into Travis Homer? Do you go after DJ Davis? Chris Carson is questionable this week. Carlos Hyde is supposed to be back. I'm not really sold on any of them. I guess if you wanted to, flex out Hyde, you could do that. Russell Wilson got me 6.62 points in one of my leagues last week. It was abysmal. It was awful. It was what Tom Brady did to me the week before, and it was just terrible. So Russell Wilson, very frustrated last week, but I think he'll bounce back just like Tom Brady did. Tyler Lockett is questionable in the game. If he plays, obviously, he is worth putting out there. And, of course, DK Metcalf. I like Lockett more than Metcalf right now, and I have Metcalf on my team, but he's been somewhat of a little bit of a letdown. I don't want to say a big like he's not somebody to keep off the field, but he's been somewhat of a head-scratcher, so hopefully he can get back to it this week. Mike, this is a really, really tough game for me to pick. I wanted to say Arizona, then something told me Seattle, but ultimately I'm going to go where I went first, and I'm going to trust my heart on this one, and I'm going to go with Arizona in this matchup. I'm going to pick Arizona to win this game, and that's what I think I'm thinking. No matter what, Thursday night's going to be great. It's going to be great for fantasy. It's going to be great to watch, and I'm really excited for it. A game that may be pretty interesting here is Philadelphia at Cleveland. This game, when it happens, seems to always kind of maybe scratch your head a little bit, be a little bit interesting. So what do you have for Philly at Cleveland?
Yeah, these are two teams going in totally opposite direction here. And the Browns, rightfully so, they've been playing well, even with the loss to Odell. Now they get Nick Chubb back, and this is going to be a great thing because they're going to be able to grind things out, set up that play-action pass there. So that's when they're a better team, is when you get that quarterback on the move like Baker Mayfield. He can really do some damage on the move or staying in the pocket. This is a guy who, has been up and down. I think he's not going to have a great game because I think you're going to be able to just run the ball in this. He's 26 on my rankings this week. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, 18 and 19 respectively on the rankings. They're going to eat each other up, but there's going to be enough production there where you can start either one of these guys. And Austin Hooper, number 12, recently back from injury. Jarvis Landry, number 35 on the rankings. Looking over at Philadelphia, this is where the problems start. And Philadelphia not playing well on the road either, of course, 1-3, but there is some fantasy money to be made here. I think Cleveland isn't as stout as their record is, but they're heading in the right direction. With that being said, Carson Wentz is the number 9 quarterback on my rankings this week. The reason why his rankings have been up lately is Miles Sanders is back. Miles Sanders, number 10 on the RB rankings. Travis Fulgham has been an integral part of keeping this Philly team in games. He's been the only guy to show up. He's the only guy I have ranked right now, number 40 on the wide receiver rankings. And Dallas Goedert is back, and that's welcoming news to Carson Wentz. Dallas Goedert, number 10 on the tight end rankings. I like Cleveland in this game. I like them more so because they're at home. I think Philadelphia is capable of winning this game. I think they have the pieces in place. Again, one team's on the way up, one team's on the way down. I'm going to go with the team on the way up in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I think, with Cleveland being at home, and obviously they've done some good things here in recent history. And so, they started off the season with me kind of scratching my head like, is this really going to be the third year where they have the talent and they just don't do anything? But they're 6-3 right now. They're 6-3 and they're in third place in the AFC North. That tells you something. Pitt's 9-0, Baltimore 6-3, Cleveland 6-3, Cincinnati's 2-6-1. So the Cleveland Browns, I do have them winning this matchup. But to look at the fantasy side, not really sold on Wency overall for the season, but I feel good about him in this game. I have him as a high-end quarterback too. But I do like him in this game. I like Miles Sanders, Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor as a flex position guy for you, and potentially an Alshon Jeffrey as a flex for you as well. Dallas Goedert, I would put him as your tight end too, if it was my choice. If you have a flex, maybe that's where you would put him in that respect. On the other side, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are back playing together again. I got them both out there, and so I'd give them both an opportunity out there for you. Outside of that, Austin Hooper, kind of a letdown. I would give him a tight end 2 designation. I guess I feel safe enough saying that. In his most recent game here, when we look at it, he had 1 catch on 2 targets for 11 yards. I mean, the guy's not gotten more than 57 yards in a game. He only has 1 touchdown this season. He's been extremely underwhelming. Mike and I told you a couple of years ago he was playing for his job, to keep his job with the Atlanta Falcons, and he did a fantastic job. And since then, since being moved to the Cleveland Browns, he really hasn't done much of anything. So I think the value lies in Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on this side of things. And even though I'm giving more fantasy value to Philly, I'm going to give the edge. I don't want to call it a slight edge. I think they'll be able to take care of it. Maybe 20-10, something like that. Probably be a little bit higher scoring. But I would say in that region of a 20-10 type of feel of it. And I'm going to give that to the Cleveland Browns in this matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. Next one up, speaking of the Atlanta Falcons, Mr. Sofka, take it away as Atlanta gets set to play Nolans. And, the fact that we have a very injured, and unfortunately a very injured Drew Brees in this game, which makes it feel all the more different. And my prayers and my hopes to him and everybody that's injured in any way, shape, or form to get better, get on the mend, and get well and stay well completely and for good as we step forward.
Yeah, hats off to Drew Brees. I mean, he stayed in the game after quite an impact, and then, after halftime, he's a coach, he's pointing to his side, his ribs, and he's got fractured ribs on both sides of his chest, and some sort of lung problem because of that as well. So for a guy to stay in the game and even contemplate going back on the field before, they decided to put Jameis Winston out there. And who would have thought, a year ago, rewind 365 days, never in a million years would I have told you that Jameis Winston would be quarterbacking a 7-2 team, and he's favored in the game. I mean, this is a crazy set of circumstances, but how can he not be favored? I don't think they're going to put him in a position to fail. They've got Alvin Kamara. They've got Michael Thomas back. And speaking of those guys, Alvin Kamara, number 2 on my rankings. Michael Thomas battling his way back from injury and discipline situations and another injury later on. But he's number 5 on my rankings this week. Look for him to have a big week. Jared Cook, number 15 on the tight end rankings. And I don't want anybody to think I forgot Emmanuel Sanders, but he's just way down on the rankings, number 48. I think that if you're looking for some touchdown-only situation, maybe a Latavius Murray, but it's going to be all Alvin Kamara. And, we spoke about Jameis Winston before. I'm not saying he's going to be over the top. I'm not saying he's going to be a top 10 quarterback this week, but I do have him ranked number 20. I have Taysom Hill 29. I think they're going to mix him in a lot more like they did with Drew Brees even. So I think the Saints are in good position in this game simply because San Fran hasn't performed well. San Fran looked bad. You mean
Atlanta on this one? Or San Fran last week? Oh, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah,
okay. Even last week. So I don't want to take too much away from that game, but I think Atlanta's very similar to San Fran, but they seem to be coming out of their funk. They seem to be coming around to the team that we are used to seeing on the fantasy football plane. And with that being said, Matt Ryan's number 10 on the rankings. Todd Gurley's number 15 on the running back rankings. And Julio Jones, he's been up and down. He's been injured. Number 10 on the wide receiver rankings. Hayden Hurst, number 8. I think this could be a back-and-forth game. Heaven help the Saints if they have to put the ball in the air. You like Jameis Winston putting the ball in the air because he can throw the ball long, but a lot of times it's to the guy on the other team. A lot of times it's to the wrong jersey. Hopefully he knows the right jersey color this week. Hopefully they don't put him in a position to fail. We see a lot of Alvin Kamara, and this could be a back-and-forth game. Even with that game plan, like I spoke of from New Orleans, this could go back and forth, back and forth. A lot of fantasy points to be made in this game. I would take the over in this game because I do think it's going to be a high-scoring affair, somewhere in the high 20s to high 20s, 30s to high 20s type game. I got to take the Saints at home, though. I can't believe I'm picking Jameis Winston to win a game, but I have to with the Saints around him.
Well, and I think the reality of it all, Mike, is the fact that, you talked about all the things that Jameis has and all the weapons that he has. And, the fact that he can, he can hand the ball off to Alvin Kamara, he can check down, he can get it off to Latavius and Michael Thomas and whatnot, that he's got a lot of help around him, that any serviceable quarterback should be able to, make something work with this. And we saw what Teddy Bridgewater was able to do last year when he had to step in. And so now this is the opportunity for Jameis to show where he's at, show who he is, show what he's capable of and what he could do. Also making mention of the fact that he's playing arguably the worst defense in the country. So, that's going to help him out too. I think in this matchup, Matty Ice is a low-end 1, high-end quarterback 2 for me. Gurley is a running back 2 or 3. I would probably put him as a 2. Julio Jones is out there as a 1. Calvin Ridley is questionable. If he's able to play, then I would put him out there as well. If not, then Olamide Zaccheaus, who could be out there. I interviewed him when he was at Virginia. He could be a flex guy for you to put out in a situation like this. May not get you a lot, but could, squeak away a few points for you to help you out with your fantasy team in that little bit of separation. Jameis on the other side is a quarterback too. Alvin Kamara is worth the play. Latavius Murray, because of everything going on with Jameis stepping in, I like Latavius a little bit more, so I put him as a flex, a high-end 3 at running back, and then Michael Thomas is worth the play as well. And then, Jared Cook in a bind, what does a quarterback go to, especially when they got to step in? They go to their running backs and their tight ends. So Jared Cook gets some more value this week as well. And I'm going to go with the Saints in this matchup. The next one that we have, Mr. Sofka, will bring us to the Bengals, who haven't looked that great, 2-6-1, up against Washington, who hasn't either. What do you have for the B-Dub matchup?
Yeah, I have Clint go to the next channel. I mean,
yeah.
Joe Burrow's been playing well, or as well as he can. He's the most sacked quarterback in the league. He has a chance to break the record of what was Derek Carr's brother's name?
David.
When he was when he played for Houston. They better get him some offensive line help, or you're going to put your top-rated, best quarterback anybody's seen in forever, Heisman Trophy winner, national championship winner, number 1 overall pick, the pride of the league, the youth movement in the league, Joe Burrow. He's going to get hurt. You got to get some blocking. You got to make something happen. You do have pieces in place. You just got to block for this guy. And even without the blocking, he's still worthy of a number 14 ranking on my rankings. And I think that's partially because of Washington, but partially because of him. He's going to do what he's got to do. He's going to step up and put his team in the chance to win. He does what quarterbacks do. A lot of people think quarterbacks are the leader. Well, they are, but that's not their function. Quarterbacks win games. Well, they do, but that's not their function. Well, quarterbacks direct the field like a general. Yeah, they do, but that's not their function. Their function is to make first downs. That's what he does. He moves the sticks. He does smart things around himself. He gets the people around him involved, and he'll run. He'll move the sticks, but, you got to wonder, are they ever going to get him help? They have the weapons in place outside of the offensive line again. 19 is the ranking for Tyler Boyd this week. T. Higgins, 29. A.J. Green, where have you gone? You are long gone, my friend. Number 50 on the rankings. I can't start a tight end from this team, unfortunately. On the other side of the ball, Alex Smith, great feel-good story with the comeback. And they almost came back last week to win that game, but they stayed defeated on the road. They're still 0-4 on the road. They get the home game here, but Alex Smith is going to be a serviceable quarterback for now. It's going to take time for him to get back to where he was at one point. Number 22 on my rankings this week. Washington, if they want to win this game, they got to run the ball. They got to attack Joe Burrow because they can, because that team gives up the sacks. But they got to use that combination of Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissic, and they will. Antonio Gibson, number 14 on the rankings this week. J.D. McKissic, the pass-catching guy, number 16. Terry McLaurin, talk about pass catching. This guy is the one dynamic offensive weapon that they have. And, he's the number 7 ranked wide receiver on my rankings. And a touchdown guy, Logan Thomas, should be serviceable for you this week at number 13 on my rankings. Washington returns home. Joe Burrow can win this game, but I don't think he's gonna. I'm gonna give this game to Washington, the slight edge to them. I think the ability for Washington to pressure the quarterback and run the ball is enough of a combination for them to pull out the victory here.
Yeah, the Bengals at football team, because I'm bitter and I'm sick and tired of writing that. But I shouldn't say I'm bitter. I'm just like, really? Football? They're all football teams. I can't. So I just write Bengals at football team. I'm not writing Washington. It's the city. So choose a name, Washington. Figure it out, right? Okay? I don't know what it is about Washington, but we seem to not be able to make decisions in D.C., and I don't know why. So Joe Burrow, I think, is worth the play in this game. I think T. Higgins above all the wide receivers at Cincinnati. I trust more. He seems to have a nice relationship with Burrow. You got Alabama playing Clemson. Now you got to play them with each other, and I like that. Tyler Boyd is a wide receiver, too, I would say, in this matchup. And then outside of that, on the other side for Washington, you know, you talk about J.D. McKissick as well as Antonio Gibson, and in their most recent matchup that Washington had, Gibson had 2 touchdowns on the ground, and McKissick got, a few carries, got 8 carries for 6 yards. He did have a touchdown, though, as well. So McKissick, I say, would be running back, a low-end flex, I would have to say, maybe a 4. Antonio Gibson, I put as a running back 3 as a flex for you. And, in this matchup, he could prove to be better. Not a ton of yards, but he got in the end zone twice, and I covered him when he was at Memphis. So I like that. I would say Terry McLaurin outside of that are your 2 best bets, and I can't trust a tight end. So I would say Antonio Gibson, lower end, J.D. McKissick, and then Terry McLaurin in this matchup. I will give the slight edge to Washington. They are at home, so I'm going to give it to them as well as Mike and I continue to be snake eyes on this thing. The next one that we have up is Detroit's playing up against the Carolina Panthers. Lions versus Panthers. Oh, my. What do we have for this one, Mr. Sofka, and what can you tell me about the fantasy value and who's going to take this one when the Lions head off to Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yeah, well, the Panthers coming across from that drubbing of Tom Brady and company in Tampa, close to the beginning of the game, close in the first half, but then Tampa was able to pour it on in the second half there, and it's amazing to me that the Panthers are where they are, but they're in a little trouble. Their quarterback got hurt. Teddy Bridgewater, minor MCL sprain. Looks like he's day-to-day. Should make the game this week. But, Carolina is led by him, but, they're not defined by him. They're defined by Christian McCaffrey, and he's hurt again. For guys that drafted CMC number 1 overall, you're probably not having a good year. And if you are, it's an amazing job on your part being without him for so many weeks. He comes back for most of a game, and then sure enough, he's out again. Mike Davis is throttled into the starting role, and he's able to pull that off effectively week in, week out. So hats off to you if you're able to scoop him up off the waiver wire about a month ago. Mike Davis, number 6 on the rankings this week. DJ Moore, up and down, inconsistent. He should be worthy of a top 10 ranking week in, week out, but he's not this week. 17 on the ranking. Robbie Anderson, number 9. Can't start a tight end here, and the tight end situation's been in flux for most people all year. If you didn't have Kelsey or Waller or Andrews on certain weeks and Hawkinson on certain weeks, pretty much you're done. Guys are getting hurt. It's been a potpourri of tight ends. 1 week it's this guy, 1 week it's that guy, and you can't win week-to-week fantasy football that way, unfortunately. And you know what? That's something a lot of players are lost on. They think it's the draft and then that's it. Or they think you plug your lineup in. No, you got to move and shake. It's a week-to-week. You got to win every week. You can't, this week I'm probably not going to win. No, you need to win week after week. And I'll tell you what, Detroit can do that behind T.J. Hawkinson, number 4 tight end on my ranking this week. Matt Stafford, number 13. And DeAndre Swift, this guy's running like a beast. You could tell he's feeling it. You could tell the game's finally slowed down for him. And if you look, this is with a lot of rookies across the board because they didn't have a rookie camp. They didn't have training camp. So there's a lot to absorb in the NFL. It's not just here, go run the ball. You got to pass block. You got to know a lot of things. So DeAndre Swift, number 7 on my rankings. Adrian Peterson falling off to 49. And I don't think Kenny Galladay is going to make the field here. I'm not really sure which wide receiver to go with this week, so I'm not going to go with any of them from Detroit. Again, T.J. Hawkinson should be the man. This is a tough game to call because I'm not sure the injury status of Teddy Bridgewater. I would think that if Bridgewater is able to make the game, that bodes better for Carolina. I would rank him number 17 with that into consideration, though. He's going to be able to manage the game behind Mike Davis, and I'm just going to have to make a call here. I think Detroit is going to win this game. I don't think they're going to be able to recover, Carolina, that is, from the beating they took last week. I'll take Detroit on the road.
Yeah, this game, and you brought up T.J. Hockenson. He scored a touchdown in three of the last 5 games for Detroit. So, I think this game is pretty evenly matched as far as how the score is going to be at the end of this all. DeAndre Swift, I'm so happy I kept him and didn't let him go. DeAndre Swift, worth the play in this. The best Lion that you could put out there. Marvin Jones Jr., I do like him in this, but he's a flex guy, lower end for you. T.J. Hockenson, as I mentioned, scored 3 in the last 5 games, so he's worth the play for you as well. And Marvin Hall, for everybody jumping in on that and trying to find him on the waiver wire or free agency, I temper your expectations. I know he scored, but I just kind of you know what I mean? I mean, somebody's got to go out there. And, they have Quintez Cephas and Marvin Hall. Everybody else has injury designations right now. So he is a deep flex that you could go if you really need somebody. But, I would say Marvin Jones Jr. is the guy to go to. And it helps out T.J. Hockenson if the receivers are hurt and they can trust in him, which, they've been able to do. Matt Stafford's been able to do. This could be very helpful moving forward. So just something for you to know. Matt Stafford does have an injury, though, so watch that. P.J. Walker, my guy on the other side for Carolina, he got in the last game. Covered him when he was in the XFL, covered him when he was at Temple. Very, very happy for Mr. Philip Walker, and so happy to see him doing his thing. So if he does go in, I think there's more talent there than people may expect, but fantasy-wise, I would stay away from it. Mike Davis is worth the play in this game. Robbie Anderson is a flex, probably a wide receiver 4, low end 3. DJ Moore, you could put him out there as a low end 2, high end 3. I don't trust the tight ends at this point, and I'm gonna give the edge to Detroit because I think that they have more talent healthy, and I'm not quite sure about. I mean, obviously Teddy Bridgewater and Matt Stafford are banged up, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Detroit in this game, despite the fact that they're on the road. I think they get to 500. They're 4-5 right now, and I think they get themselves to 500 and move forward from here. So I'll give them a little bit of an edge in this matchup, Mr. Sofka, as we get ready for our next matchup to talk about, and that next one on the docket here inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, probably presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. And you can call for curbside pickup, takeout, delivery, and catering, 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat Sports Pub. Make sure that you give them a call and support local business. It's imperative now more than ever to support your local businesses. Use the hashtag SupportCNY when you do that, including when you go to or order from the Wildcat Sports Pub. Pittsburgh at Jacksonville, Mr. Sofka. Pittsburgh is 9-0. They found a way to get it done. Big Ben was able to play. The Rona couldn't keep him down, thank God. Hopefully he is continuing to get well and stays well, and it never bothers him again, and that same prayers for everybody. And hopefully those that don't have it never get it. Jacksonville has been plagued by their own problems, and it's just a lot of issue here. So what can you tell me about Pittsburgh going to Jacksonville? I would love to see this game, and then I'm looking at it this week, and I'm going, I'd love to be there, but I don't have a lot of thought. If Jacksonville can't close it out against the teams they were playing, are they going to close it out against a 9-0 Steelers team that has a lot of fantasy value? So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I bet you want to be here. It's supposed to be 78 degrees and sunny for that game. It's going to be awesome weather, but that's about it. The question is going to be whether You like what I did there with the transition? Weather. I like that.
I love it, Mike. I'm feeling it.
The Steelers amaze me. They continue to do it week after week. You know, I even called them to lose last week against Cincinnati, and they pulled it out. You know, this is a game that continues to amaze, and Jacksonville continues to amaze me for the wrong reasons. They played really well for most of the game, for about 3/4 of the game, before letting the Packers come back and beat them. And I think they started off hot. I think they played real well, but I don't think they're going to have as much luck. I think Pittsburgh's a much better team than Green Bay is. So even though Jacksonville's at home, they're in a lot of trouble. They're in a lot of trouble because they can't protect the quarterback, Jake Luton, Luton. Gardner Minshew's still going to be out. Jake Luton, number 27 on my rankings. James Robinson's been the one solid bright spot week after week, constant running back one for you, number 11 on the rankings this week. DJ Chark looks like he's reconnected, looks like he's back in the game, but he's playing with a rookie quarterback. So, he might get you one or two long balls, maybe a touchdown. He's number 24 on the ranking. Tyler Eifert, number 19. Going over to Pittsburgh, this is where all the money is. And the money is on Ben Roethlisberger. This guy has some awesome weapons, and he's knowing how to use them. He's distributing the ball well. Who's ever drafting and scouting for Pittsburgh, they do a wonderful job because year in, year out, they come up with these players. They come up with these wide receivers, and they're not free agent signings. There are guys like Juju Smith-Schuster, who's ranked number 13 this week. There's a guy like Deontay Johnson, who's ranked number 27 this week. There's a guy like Chase Claypool, 21. James Conner. I can go on and on. So bringing guys in through their organization, through their draft, it's kind of like the Yankees at one time. They had players up and down, minor league, AAA, AA. This is what Pittsburgh has, and Pittsburgh has a good running back as well. Number 13 on the rankings is James Conner. The guy, again, like I said, distributing the ball to everybody. Ben Roethlisberger, number 7 on the quarterback rankings. And Eric Ebron, look for a touchdown from him this week as well. Number 7 on the tight end rankings. All the talent is on the Pittsburgh side of the ball, and I have to go with Pittsburgh to win the game.
Yeah, Jacksonville, the thing is, unfortunately, what is in common between the Jaguars and the Jaguars and the Syracuse Orange team isn't just Doug Marrone was the head coach at Syracuse, and now he's the head coach at Jacksonville. The unfortunate thing that they have in common right now is the fact that they're both 1-7, and so not the thing that you want to have, especially when I look at these teams and obviously covering them all these years and whatnot, seeing not one but both of them at 1-7 is very undesirable. I don't think it changes this week. They played Green Bay a lot better than I thought. I like Jake Luton. We've seen him in 2 games. He's honestly done a lot of good things, and when they block for him, when they give him time, when he's able to get the ball out, there's a lot of good stuff. But that's a win. You're playing Pittsburgh. They're feeling good. They're feeling high. And I think they're going to get the win, and I'm not too concerned about it. Big Ben's worth the play. Connor, I know he's struggled, but he's worth the play for you. And Juju Smith-Schuster, he was looking good this past week. He's worth the play. That puts Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson in interesting situations as lower-end flex wide receiver 4s. I do like Eric Ebron, and I agree with you, Mike. There's something about the tight end, especially when they play in Jacksonville against Jacksonville's defense. Luton on his side does some good things, but I don't know if this is the game you'd want to play him in. He's a quarterback 2, so if you got to fill a spot with somebody, he's not a bad 2. I just don't put him as a 1. James Robinson, Mike, when's the last time that you heard this? When you look at the stat sheet of the last game that Jacksonville played, and you look at how many people carry the ball, there's no Jake Luton carries. There's nobody else there. James Robinson's by himself. 1 running back. No wide receivers, no reverses, no backup running back, no give James a break, no Jake Luton quarterback keepers, just James Robinson. He's the only one that showed up on the stat sheet for Jacksonville running 23 carries, 109 yards against Green Bay. This man has been the one constant in fantasy, so he is your one must-play in Jacksonville. A close 2, DJ Chark. Outside of that, it's a hello and goodbye right now. So I would give the edge, obviously, to Pittsburgh in this matchup, and I think there is fantasy value on both sides. I think the best thing that Jacksonville can hang their hat on besides Gardner Minshew's attitude is what Jake Luton's done, but more than anything else is James Robinson, the undrafted running back out of Illinois State, doing a fantastic job, and a big ups to him, and I'm so happy that I was able to pick him up in 2 of my leagues. So shout out to that. Before we take a step aside in the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora from inside the Cafe Kubal studios. Mike, we have Tennessee at Baltimore. What do you have for this?
Yeah, Baltimore looking to bounce back. I don't know if you saw that game, but the rain was so heavy it looked like fog. And it looked like it unloaded when the game started. And there's pictures of the field and everything crisp, clean, nice, brand new looking fresh from that torrential downpour and washing of the entire stadium. It looked beautiful right after the game. And the NFL is probably going to be investigating New England for controlling the weather. We know they videotape teams and do all sorts of weird things. Maybe Belichick is using his connections to control the weather. And that was a crazy thought, but it was amazing because they neutralized the one thing the Ravens could do, and that was run the ball, control the ball, run the offense, and they couldn't do it. The Ravens looking to bounce back in a big way this week. This is going to be a critical game for both teams. Both teams 6-3, Tennessee and Baltimore looking to get on the right side in the win column. Baltimore, though, behind Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to have a bounce-back game if they're going to want to win. He's the number, I think he will. He's the number 4 quarterback on the rankings. Mark Andrews, the tight end, number 3 on the tight end rankings. And all the running backs are kind of going to share the load here. Mark Ingram back in the fold, J.K. Dobbins as well, and Gus Edwards. I have them all ranked in the 40s, the mid-40s, 44, 45, and 46. So they're going to kind of eat each other up. Marquise Brown might get a big hit, but let's face it, Baltimore's not throwing the ball. They're not throwing the ball well, and if they are throwing it, it's to the tight end in the end zone. Still look for Marquise Hollywood Brown to have at least one big splash play for you. 39 on the rankings. I can't rank any other receiver, though, for Baltimore until they start showing me something. On the other side of the ball, it's a little more evenly spread out. Ryan Tannehill, number 23 quarterback on the rankings. Derrick Henry, though, is where their muscle is. That's how they're going to win games. They need to get behind Derrick Henry. They couldn't even run the ball last week, but they're going to look to get back on track this week. Derrick Henry, number 12, running back on the rankings. Jonnu Smith, up and down, inconsistent, as have been most tight ends. Number 14 on the tight end rankings this week. And A.J. Brown disappeared last week, number 28 on the wide receiver rankings. I got to think if either one of these teams is able to bounce back from last week, I give that edge to Baltimore. But I think this game's going to be closer than people think. I'll take Baltimore at home.
Yeah, this game is a dangerous game. This is a tough one for either team because I mean Baltimore obviously more to lose with all the hype that they had and where they're supposed to be. You know, Tennessee is a team that I think is gaining more respect, but still that team that I think people would choose Baltimore over them in this matchup. I am going to pick Baltimore. I do think it's going to be close. I do feel it might be in the 30s. That's where I'd be leaning right now. Ryan Tannehill in this game might have to come back, make some big-time throws later on. I trust him, and I trust him more than I did. I mean, I think when he came to Tennessee, he had a resurgence of his career, but he's a quarterback, too, for me this week. I like Derrick Henry, and A.J. Brown is a wide receiver, too. And then Jonnu Smith as a lower-end tight end, too. Lamar Jackson on the other side. Ingram and Dobbins, it's hard to choose. I put these guys as running back 3s. Marquise Hollywood Brown does not save my butt, so I would put him as a low-end 2. He hasn't been everything that I think we were hoping, and Willie Snead definitely was in this last game. He was the one that was getting the targets from Lamar Jackson in that crazy rain. So I'd go with Snead in this one, and you got to go Mark Andrews, even though he had a drop in the rain there. It wasn't the most ideal game that he had. Wasn't getting a lot of targets, and when he did, he wasn't doing much with them. But he is Mark Andrews, and I don't think you can judge him on a week. It depends on, is somebody bad every week and then good? Or is somebody, pretty good every week and then has an off week in torrential downpour against a really good team? So, Mark Andrews, I'm not going to count him out. I don't think it's even close to do something like that. So that's the value on both sides. I'm going to give the edge to Baltimore, but this game, I agree with Mike totally. I think this game is going to be close. I think this game is going to, make fans on both sides hold their breath at certain points here. But ultimately, I'm going to trust Baltimore to come out with the victory, even though I truly think that Tennessee is capable of what some people would consider a shock. I wouldn't. I think these teams are closer matched than they get credit for, and I think the game is going to show that. So I'll give the edge to the Ravens, but I think at the end of the day, this game is going to be a good game, and I could see it going either way. So with that being said, Mike and I will take a step aside for a fast break. When we come back with the next game on the docket will be the Patriots at the Texans. This is like a playoff-style game, right? But the Texans aren't looking great. They're thinking about maybe Crennel being their head coach of the future. The Patriots are all over the place. But we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And after this fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets life, a big shout out to all of our amazing partners here in the community. And a very special thank you to the Wildcat Sports Pub for being here with us for our winning fantasy football group coverage, for everything we do for on social media. We want to thank them for being here with us for the Fantasy Football Power Hour. Implore you to join the winning fantasy football group on Facebook and to go to HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com to check out what Mike's doing. And, of course, watch all our videos on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT. With that being said, we'll take a step aside, and we'll be back here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios where sports meets life right after this.
What happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carbolite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carbolite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and of course, typically going past that 11 o'clock hour for you when it comes to our Fantasy Football Power Hour, which we do every Wednesday with Mr. Mike Sofka, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. You can call 315-487-2222 for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery. And, of course, you can dine in Monday through Sunday at the Wildcat and watch the games there as well. With football on every single day of the week between college and pro, definitely have a lot of stuff to get to. And the NBA draft is going to be on there tonight, so you can go and watch that as well. With that being said, inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, Mr. Sofka and I now take you to our next game here for Week 11 advice. Every team, every game in action. And so, Mike, we will head to our next matchup here, which is the Patriots at the Texans. What do you have for this one?
Well, it's funny. Our last game we talked about Belichick controlling the weather. I don't think he's going to have luck doing that in Houston. But at the same time, you know, he had something in his pocket there, and he was able to put together a game plan to shut down Lamar Jackson. And I think Belichick's going to do the same thing here at Houston. Look, Belichick doesn't have Tom Brady. He doesn't have Gronk. He doesn't have one knockout player at running back. He doesn't have one knockout player at wide receiver. receiver, and he hasn't had one knockout player at quarterback. He hasn't really done much for him on a consistent basis. But Cam Newton, number 9 on my rankings this week because of the Belichick game plan, because of what he's able to do. Number 9, and Jacoby Myers, number 11. He's the number 1 target guy. He's the guy you're going to want to have. Number 11 on the wide receiver rankings. The running backs, Damian Harrison and James White, I like what they do. It's just not good enough for fantasy players consistently. But in PPR leagues, James White is the guy to have. Number 35 on the rankings. Damian Harris, number 26. He silently picks up yards here and there, and then all of a sudden he has 100 yards. So that's definitely a guy that you want to put in as a low-end running back to 26 on my rankings. On the other side of the ball, Houston. Wow, if only this team had one dynamic wide receiver, they would be a great team. They had one.
Yeah.
They traded him for some magic beans, and the beanstalk hasn't grown. The beanstalk is on IR now. Duke Johnson stepping in for David Johnson, number 20 on the rankings. Deshaun Watson, he's their number 1 player. He's the playmaker. If something's going to happen, it's going to start with Deshaun Watson, number 6 on the quarterback rankings. Now, they do have a couple wide receivers. So no DeAndre Hopkins, but they are serviceable for you. And Will Fuller, 16 on the rankings. Brandon Cooks, number 18, and Randall Cobb, number 46 on the wide receiver rankings. I can't rank a tight end on this team either. Tight ends are few and hard to come by right now this year, folks. Everybody knows that. They're all in the same boat. The NFL teams are in the same boat. Look, Houston's got a couple good playmakers for you to make some money playing fantasy football, but I don't think fantasy football money is necessarily the thing you're going to win or lose with a Bill Belichick. Well, take that back. He can impede you from making fantasy football money. So with that being said, I'm going to give the victory to Belichick and the Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny that you said that, Mike. Imagine if they had a wide receiver in Houston that was capable, that was good, that was strong, that was a number 1, arguably the best in the nation. And I love how you said they traded him for some magic beans. You and I saw the writing on the wall before David Johnson even got there, and it's no knock on David Johnson. It was output, and it's trading a wide receiver for a running back, 2 different positions. I understand they're both skill players, but it just doesn't make sense. Deshaun Watson doesn't have a guy that he can consistently air out to. I mean, Will Fuller, when he stays healthy, he's your best bet. But without DeAndre Hopkins, and look at what he's doing in Arizona. He's with a different quarterback, a different coach, a different, everything out there. He's on the West Coast now, and he's getting it done. And he's being DeAndre Hopkins, which we both expected. And I think that Arizona should be ashamed of themselves for such a terrible decision. But hopefully they can move forward and get better and bounce back from it. The value in this game lies in New England. Cam Newton, Damian Harris, Rex Burkhead, and Jacoby Myers. Throw them all out there and let's have some fun. Houston, Deshaun Watson, and Will Fuller the 5th. But Deshaun drops down a little bit, and Will Fuller drops to a wide receiver 2 for me. The value's in New England, the win's in New England, and we move on to Miami at Denver. This is an interesting game, Mr. Sofka. Drew Lock is a young quarterback in the NFL. Tua Tagovailoa is a rookie here in the NFL. It's doing some great stuff, and I love seeing that left-handed quarterback, this play that he had this past week. He threw it to the wrong tight end in my belief because Mike Gesicki's on my team, not Smythe. But when he dropped back, turned his body, and threw that left-handed pass, just looked absolutely beautiful. And I'm always mesmerized by left-handed quarterbacks because they're so few and far between. What are your thoughts when Tua goes into Denver, Colorado?
Yeah, it's something you say that about the left-handed quarterbacks because that can be a challenge for a lot of receivers in the game because the ball's going to rotate differently from a left-handed quarterback than a right-handed quarterback, and there are some adjustments that need to be made. And some guys have never in their life played with left-handed quarterback. It's a lot more rare than it is in baseball. But we've seen some great left-handed quarterbacks, and Tua bound to be one of those. Look, I think Tua is an excellent quarterback. He's led his team to victory, but the guy that's really led his team to victory, if you really want to cut through it, is Andrew Van Ginkel for the Dolphins. This guy has made a big play in each of the 3 wins that Tua's been able to lead this team to. There's some sort of magic happening there, and I like it. The guy's around the ball. The guy isn't a star. We have never talked about him on the show. And this is a guy who is somewhere magically around the ball, blocking kicks, picking up fumbles, returning stuff, making stuff happen. You need those type of players on your team if you're going to continue to win games, and that's what Miami's doing. It's a great combination they have with Tua running the offense and this Van Ginkel guy coming up with the turnover or coming up with the big play, the splash play on defense to make it happen. With that being said, he's not on the fantasy side. He's not running the ball for Miami. He's not catching the ball. I'll tell you who's running the ball, though, is a guy that Dan brought up on the show last week. Hats off to you, Dan. Salvon Ahmed. If you haven't picked this guy up yet, you probably missed him. Run to the waiver wire. See if he's there now as a free agent you can snatch up. This guy's number 25 on my rankings this week. We may even see a Malcolm Perry sighting, number 55 on the running back rankings this week for the Miami Dolphins. Tua, like we spoke of earlier, Tua's the guy. He's a balanced guy. He's a good quarterback. You can tell he's getting his feet wet, and he's getting more and more comfortable as the weeks go on. Number 18 on the quarterback rankings. Devontae Parker's always good for a big splash play. He's number 14 on the wide receiver rankings. And Jakeem Grant, if you get points for returns, this is a guy you definitely want. Number 45 on the wide receiver ranking. Mike Gesicki, number 17 on the tight end rankings there. Going over to Denver, this just out this morning out of Denver that Drew Lock is week to week. He may not make this game. Might we see a Brett Ripien here? I don't know. Right now, Drew Lock, should he be healthy? He's number 24. And I say it's a danger because on Wednesday when they announce your week to week, that's different than being day-to-day. Think about it. When they say day-to-day, they mean today you may be injured. Tomorrow you may have a chance. When they say week-to-week, they don't know if you're going to make the game, but you might make it. You got to take evasive action immediately. When they say, don't wait for them to issue Drew Lock with the out tag to make decisions on your fantasy team. But that being said, if Drew Lock is able to make the game, 24 on the rankings, I can't really play any other Denver guys other than Melvin Gordon, number 22 on the running back rankings, and Noah Fant, number 5 on the tight end rankings. So, a lot is going to depend on what happens for Miami with Drew Lock. So I don't know enough about his injury to state. I just know the words week to week are different than the words day to day. I got to take Miami in this one on the road.
Yeah, and I got to take Miami in this as well. Drew Lock, even if he plays 4 interceptions in his last game, which was against the Raiders. So not anything ideal as you step forward here. Drew Lock has been able to do some good things and spread the ball around, and Jerry Jeudy is still relevant, in this offense and whatnot. And I think, KJ Hamler is another rookie that they picked up wide receiver, and I think that, he has value too. But ultimately, in this thing, let's start with Miami. And on Miami's side of it, I like Tua in this matchup, but I have him as a lower-end one in the matchup. I would say, Malcolm Perry, he's a former quarterback at Navy. And for anybody that wants to overlook him, I would tell you not to. He's a flex position. If you need someone in a bind right now, he's probably out there. I would venture to say he is. And you could pick him up and let him run around on this and do some great stuff. He ran the triple option, so the ball in his hands is a good thing. Salvon Ahmed and Mike, and thank you for the kind words before. Salvon is somebody for you to pick up if you can and put him out there. And then, Durham Smythe is not a bad thing because him and Mike Gesicki are both getting looks from Tua. So, really, unfortunately, either one of them is interchangeable. But if you can pick up either one of them, you have the shot at a touchdown this week. On the Denver side of it, Melvin Gordon III, he's a running back 3. I do like Jerry Jeudy still and KJ Hamler as a flex. Jerry Jeudy does still make it a little bit higher than a flex to me as far as things go at this moment in time. No matter who the quarterback is, I still think he'll give you something. But because even in a 4-interception day for Drew Lock, he was able to get 68 yards. But, I know that if Drew Lock's not out there, interception or not, you're in a situation where you have Jeff Driscoll, and, that could be your quarterback, or, in Denver, it could be Brett Ripien. So I still like Jerry Jeudy. I wouldn't take him off. I just don't have him as high, but I wouldn't have him as high even with Drew Lock just because of the fact that things haven't been great. but he's still somebody that I put out weekly because he's able to get points. He had 4 receptions, 68 yards most recently. The Jets at the Chargers, Mr. Sofka. What do you got for this?
Yeah, the New York Jets and myself have something in common. We have two things in common, actually, and you're saying, wow, they're 0-9. What could you have in common? We both looked good last week. Neither one of us played an NFL game last week. The Jets on a bye. That's the only positive thing that I can say about them. 0-9 on the year. And coming in a close second, looking bad last week, were the Chargers against the Dolphins. It seems like Justin Herbert's just trying to do too much, maybe. I just don't have a definition for it other than this is going to be an ugly game. Thank goodness for the Chargers. It's at home, although they're 1-3 at home. But they're going against a team that's 0-4 on the road, 0-9 on the season. Chargers, you have to win this game. The pressure's on the Chargers. Nobody expects the Jets to win. That might be the reason why they sneak out a victory. But don't count on it. Although Joe Flacco has been airing out the ball, that's because they've had to. 28 on the rankings is Joe Flacco. I can't start a running back for the Jets. Maybe Lamichael Perine at number 37 is an emergency flex play, but even he's not getting the ball. Jamison Crowder seems to be the one bright spot on the team, number 20 since he's been back, number 20 on the wide receiver rankings. I don't have enough faith in Bashard Perriman yet, simply because I don't have enough faith in the Jets' offense. Going over to the Chargers, there's a little more value for you fantasy-wise. Justin Herbert should have a great bounce-back game here for the team to lead them to victory. Number 5 on the quarterback rankings. Joshua Kelly's on the way down, losing touches to a guy named Troy Maine Pope, of all people. We've seen this before, and then Kalen Ballage comes in and lights it up. Justin Jackson. Joshua Kelly just didn't take advantage of the opportunity, but, he's a rookie, so, you got to give him time. Number 41 on the rankings. Kalen Ballage, 29. Keenan Allen is a real bright spot. He is week after week, year after year. He's number 4 on the wide receiver rankings. I can't start anybody else. Maybe a Mike Williams is 42 on the wide receiver rankings. And Hunter Henry, not overly effective either. None of the tight ends. Again, we've been speaking about this as a common theme, team to team. Hunter Henry, number 6 on the tight end rankings. I got to go with the team with the better quarterback. The better quarterback's Justin Herbert, and that's who I'm going to take to win the game, the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, the Jets, and the Jets also, not only did you both look good last week, you have as many wins as the Jets have too, Mike. So, technically, you're an NFL franchise, brother, so congrats to you, and I look forward to your decision-making being better than the Jets. I see nothing other than flexing Jamison Crowder, so I will not waste people's time on that side. On the other side with the Chargers, I like Herbert in this game. He's playing the Jets. I mean, that's a yay. And he's done some good things against some better teams. Hunter Henry hasn't gotten many yards, but he's still a lookout there. Shout-outs to the Chargers for the amount of health that they have. I know that they've lost guys like Eckler, but right now with what they've had, I mean, obviously Justin Jackson they haven't trusted in. Josh Kelly they haven't trusted in because Kalen Ballage is there now. So Kalen Ballage is a flex play. Probably pick him up right now. Give you some depth at running back against a team that I don't expect a lot of things out of, that being the Jets. So Kalen Ballage, not a bad flex. I like Justin Herbert. I like Keenan Allen. An outside look at Mike Williams maybe as a wide receiver 3 and Hunter Henry. I'm going with the Chargers in this one. Next matchup that Mike and I have in the grand docket here for Week 11 of the NFL inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, in the Home Depot Plaza. For those of you that would like to dine in, for those of you that would like to order curbside pickup, takeout, or delivery, you can call the Wildcat and support Central New York at 315-487-2222. That's 315-487-2222. Green Bay at the Colts. The Colts, we said, would fight the Titans to win the division. And it looked a little dicey, Mike, but they're doing exactly what we said they were going to do, and they're looking okay. They don't look great. I don't think they're on a lot of people's radar, but maybe that could be a good thing. The Colts know that the Jaguars pushed the Packers to the end of the game. Can the Colts defeat the Packers, seeing what Jacksonville did, being a better team than Jacksonville this year, or will Green Bay find a way on the road?
Yeah, I think Green Bay is playing well on the road. They're 4-1 on the road, 7-2 overall. But the Colts have a better offensive line. I think the Green Bay Packers have the better quarterback. But let me get right into it here. I'll start with the home team, the Colts. Phillip Rivers, number 16 on the rankings. Again, he's just playing that Trent Dilfer role. Just don't screw it up. He's got some good running backs, and it's been a different guy almost every week. Jonathan Taylor has faded almost into obscurity, trying to bounce back last week. But Nyheim Hines is the guy that continues to be able to be found by Phillip Rivers. He's definitely the pass-catching guy, and he can score from anywhere on the field. Nyheim Hines, 19 on the running back rankings. Jonathan Taylor, 32. Jordan Wilkins, a more distant 40 on the rankings. All the wide receivers for the Colts are a challenge for me to start. They're all in the 40s and 60s, even T.Y. Hilton, so I'm staying away there. Trey Burton may be a touchdown guy, number 22 on the tight end rankings. You're going to find more fantasy dollars on the other side of the ball, though. You know this. Aaron Rodgers, number 12 on the quarterback rankings. Aaron Jones, number 4 on the running back rankings. And Devontae Adams, number 1 on the wide receiver rankings. If you're in a touchdown-only league, tight end is Tonyan. Robert Tonyan's the guy you want in a touchdown-only league, but I can't count on him in a combo league. Number 17 on the tight end rankings for us. I really think Green Bay's got more fantasy value for you, but I got to go with the offensive line of the Colts. I think that's going to be the difference in this game. I don't look for one player to outshine everybody on the Colts, but the better team right now, I think, is the Colts. I'm going to take the Colts at home.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Michael Pittman coming off of this last victory for the Colts, coming out of USC, the wide receiver, 2020 round 2, 34th overall pick, a very high pick, just 2 picks away from being in round number 1. He had himself a day against Tennessee in that 34-17 win, where the Colts were able to take down the Titans by scoring double and getting to 6-3 and giving them a slight advantage over the Titans in the AFC South division. So, you know, but I do want to start with the away team first, as I always do. So, Aaron Rodgers is worth the play. Aaron Jones worth the play. Devontae Adams doing his thing. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, I'm not sold yet, but if you want to flex him out or a low-end 2, I can understand that. I feel better as putting him as a high-end 3. Robert Tonyan hasn't sold me, so I'm not sitting here thinking great things about it. He was targeted 4 times, caught 3 for 33 yards, so not bad, you know, but I think he's a tight end, too. On the other side of it, Phillip Rivers, I don't trust that he's the guy to put out there. And when we look at the numbers, you know, T.Y. Hilton's not looking great. Nyheim Hines is doing good stuff, and I've told you guys about him before. He was their leading rusher, and he was their second leading receiver. He had a touchdown rushing and a touchdown receiving in the win over the Titans. I told you what he was doing at NC State. Hopefully you listen to me. He's done some really great stuff, and he was able to get you over 100 yards cumulatively as well. So Nyheim Hines is worth the play. Michael Pittman Jr., I like him because he was probably out there. He's a rookie, and you might be able to still pick him up right now if you run at it this morning to the best of your ability. I like both of them better than I like T.Y. Hilton on this team, and I'm not really trusting in the tight end situation. Jonathan Taylor, So running back 2, but Nyheim Hines seems like he has the more value. And Michael Pittman, I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm excited. I say pleasantly surprised because he's a rookie, not because I don't think he's talented or something like that. I am going to go against Mr. Sofka. We've equaled each other out in every single matchup this week. We have agreed with each other, but we will not agree on this one. I'm going to go with Green Bay on the road. Dallas at Minnesota. Mr. Sofka, what do you got?
Yeah, Minnesota sneaking one out on Monday night against the Bears, and hats off to them for finding a way to pull a victory out. Dallas, team with all this talent, a team with all this stuff at the beginning of the year, well, they're 2-7, 0-4 on the road. They're visiting Minnesota, who's 1-3 at home. So this is a 2-7 team versus a 4-5 team. So this isn't great TV. This isn't great NFL team watching. But you may find some dollars if you look carefully here. And that, of course, is behind Dalvin Cook of Minnesota. Dalvin Cook, number 1 overall running back this week. Adam Thielen, number 12 on the wide receiver rankings. And the guy that's leading the team in yards and targets, Justin Jefferson, number 23, the rookie, 23 on the wide receiver rankings. And Kirk Cousins, number 25 on the quarterback rankings. On the other side of the ball, Dallas Dallas is a team that, wow, they're going to have a great year. Every year we hear this from the Cowboys fans. How about them boys? How about them Cowboys? Yeah, not so much. Even Zeke isn't having a great year this year behind that powerful offensive line. Number 8 on the running back rankings. And I think that's just because they're loading the box on him. You know, they've had some different guys playing quarterback. And hats off to Garrett Gilbert, and hats off to Andy Dalton for filling in when he could. Looks like Andy Dalton's going to be back this week. Number 21 on the quarterback rankings. The wide receivers, though, have suffered through this quarterback situation. They're all in the 20s and 30s. Amari Cooper, number 25 on the rankings. C.D. Lamb, number 30. And Michael Gallup, where have you gone? You've run off somewhere. You've galloped off somewhere. 52 on the wide receiver rankings. Dalton Schultz, number 11 on the tight end rankings. I really think that Dallas is capable of moving the ball in this game, even behind an Andy Dalton. And I think Minnesota's capable of moving the ball against Dallas. So this should be somewhat of an interesting matchup from a fantasy perspective. I'm going to take Minnesota at home. I think Cowboys' woes continue. I think Minnesota's going to find a way to win this game.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys' woes continue, too. I'm picking Minnesota for this matchup as well. On Dallas' side, Garrett Gilbert, credit to him. Not a bad day. 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 243 yards, 21 of 38. He also ran the ball 3 times for 28 yards. Tony Pollard stepping it up out of Memphis, another guy that I covered there inside of the American. He had more yards on half the amount of carries as Ezekiel Elliott. Pollard, 9 carries for 57, 6.3 yards a carry. Zeke, 16 carries, 51 yards, 2.8 yards a carry. Zeke not looking like Zeke, and as his tattoo says on his belly, like, ready to eat or feed me, the feed me tattoo. Well, you know what? If you're trying to feed your fantasy owner Zeke, we're all starving right now. So you got to do something, got to figure it out, got to find a way. Tony Pollard getting it done, credit to him. So Pollard I would put as a flex, Zeke as a running back too. The emergence of C.D. Lamb makes me put him out there as a wide receiver 2, a low end, I would say a low end 2, high end 3. I feel good about that. Amari Cooper, I would not go away from him. I do think that there's some good in there. He's getting targeted just as much as C.D. Lamb pretty much, and the yards are similar, so I'd have him in a similar footing, but he's done more than C.D. Lamb over time, so I would give him a slight edge. But C.D. Lamb might be trending upward. Remember, every quarterback has their guy, so that could affect things a little bit. But I think it's hard to keep C.D. Lamb off of your roster when it comes to, or off of your starters as of right now. And Amari Cooper's dipping a little bit, but I still think that he is worth the play for you, depending how deep you are at wide receiver. So there's a lot of value for Dallas on that side. On the other side, it's Delvin Cook, Adam Thielen, and I like Justin Jefferson in this game, and I'm going to go with Minnesota. And Delvin, fantastic weeks of over 500 yards cumulatively, running the ball for 2 weeks in a row, and then last week had 96. So I feel good about Mr. Cook. And with that being said, before we get cooking on Sunday and Monday night, we're going to take a step aside for our final fast break of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on today's broadcast inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You're listening to Mike Sofka, my co-host, and myself, Dan Tortora, inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, proudly presented by the Wildcat Sports Pub. You can go there on 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York, and you can also call them for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery by calling the number 315-487-2222. Mike and I will be back inside of the Cafe Kubal studios in just a moment.
Avicoli's Restaurant, located right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road, is proud to be your local neighbor, growing with you for over 20 years. We're open 7 days a week for lunch, dinner, and drinks. For takeout, delivery, or catering, call us at 315-622-5100. When you order online and use our promo code ABS10, you will save 10% on your online purchase at myavicolis.com. And make sure to join us monthly for our live on-site broadcasts centered around Liverpool athletics. Avicolis, your local trusted neighbor right at the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road.
Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying. In the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
Trapper's Pizza Pub, located on 5950 Butternut Drive in East Syracuse. Right off of Bridge Street is your local community supporter right around the corner. Join us on site at Trapper's Pizza Pub for our live monthly broadcast supporting Central New York student athletes and their sports programs. Call 315-438-4444 for more information. And find us on Facebook and Instagram at Trapper's Pizza Pub. Trapper's Pizza Pub, your local community supporter right around the corner.
Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt inside of the Cafe Kubal studios, hanging out here with Mr. Mike Sofka of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com, and of course, our Facebook group, which you should join today, Winning Fantasy Football. It is our free group on Facebook where we talk all things fantasy all year round. We're inside of the Fantasy Football Power Hour, giving you advice on NFL Week 11 for the 2020-2021 season. Inside of this beautiful Fantasy Football Power Hour, it's brought to you by the Wildcat Sports Pub, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. And make sure you make your way out there and call them for curbside pickup, takeout, and delivery at 315-487-2222. We got, speaking of twos, 2 more games left on the docket, Sunday and Monday night for Week 11 of the NFL. Mr. Sofka, that first game is rematch. What's going to happen in this one? We know that the Chiefs took their L, their only L that the Chiefs had to take. They've taken that loss, and they took it to the Raiders just a few weeks back, 40-32 at home in Kansas City, Missouri. Now they're going to Vegas. They're going to the spaceship. What's going to happen in this game, Mr. Sofka, on Sunday Night Football? Kansas City 8-1. The Vegas Raiders are 6-3, losses to the Bucs, the Bills, and the Patriots. What do you have for this game, which is a rematch of a fantastic 72-point cumulative scoring game that happened just a few weeks ago in the beautiful world of the NFL?
The Raiders are for real. They showed up for real in that game, that's for sure. The Raiders are notable for doing this. They're notorious for doing this, and they usually have close games against the Chiefs. And the Raiders have beaten some good teams this year. They beat the Chiefs, as we talked about. They also beat New Orleans as well. So the Raiders aren't a fluke. But what happened in that last game against Kansas City was Derek Carr threw for 347. Henry Ruggs 118 in receiving yards. We haven't seen that since from Henry Ruggs. I mean, maybe a big player here or there, and he has a big splash play just about every game he shows up, but he hasn't been showing up, and that's a problem for the Raiders. On the other side of the ball, Andy Reid is notorious for winning games after a bye. He has a tremendous record after a bye, and definitely has the weapons on Kansas City, even though they're in the spaceship. You gotta remember, there's no fans there still. So it's a weird situation. Brand new, billions of dollars spent on this stadium, and nobody is there. Nobody can enjoy it. Well, the players are enjoying it, and I got to give John Gruden a lot of credit for where they've gone this year, and they have some great players. Their number one receivers, their tight end. That's good for fantasy players. It's bad for the Raiders. Your number one tight end, your number one receiver can't be your tight end, but somehow they're making it work. I can't start any of the receivers, including Henry Ruggs, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Renfrow. These guys are all ranked in the 50s and 60s for me this week. Josh Jacobs, number 4 running back on the rankings this week, and Derek Carr, middle of the road like he normally is, number 15 on the rankings. There's no middle in the road on the Kansas City team. They have nothing but Pro Bowl players and all-star players. Patrick Mahomes, number 3 quarterback this week. Travis Kelce, number 1 tight end, as he is week in, week out. Him and Darren Waller. So you have the 2 tight ends squaring off here. Tyreek Hill, one of the top wide receivers in the game, number 3 on the rankings. I'm not going to designate a ranking for any of the other receivers. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, number 21 on the running back rankings. Le'Veon Bell, fading quickly, number 48 on the running back rankings. Look, the strength, all the eyes point to Kansas City. All the reasons point to Kansas City. Everything is pointing Kansas City's way in this game. I think that's going to continue. I don't think that's a fluke. And I think they're going to end up splitting the series. I look for Kansas City to win this game.
Yeah, wouldn't it be crazy if the Raiders had their number and nobody else did? But I do have Kansas City in this matchup as well, evening it out in the head-to-head divisional series that they have in the AFC West. When you go back and you look at the game that they played at Kansas City, that the Raiders were able to withstand a try to, you look at Pat Mahomes, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now at those comebacks, and they were able to hold him off, fend him off toward the end of the game, 40-32. And in the game, Derek Carr met Pat Mahomes pound for pound with completions, 22 apiece. Carr did it on less. He did 22 of 31 to Pat Mahomes, 22 of 43. Now, obviously, Pat Mahomes had to throw more toward the end of the game. Derek Carr also outdid him in touchdowns to interceptions, 3-1. Pat Mahomes had 2-1 in that game, and he outdid him in yards, 347 to Mahomes, 340. So just some notes to make there. I like that you brought up Henry Ruggs, has been really quiet. He's on one of my teams, and he has been nothing to write home about. So that's something to look at if you're a fantasy owner. I don't know if you drop him, but you definitely kind of maybe push him down that bench a little bit farther. Pat Mahomes, Clyde Edwards-Helaire worth the play, Tyreek Hill as well. And keep your eye on, I know he's injured right now, but keep your eye on McCole Hardman. Just keep your eye on him. That's all I'm going to say. Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Travis Kelce for the side of Kansas City. On the side of Vegas, Josh Jacobs is worth the play. Darren Waller, I give him a nod as well as a lower-end tight end 1. And then it is hard between Hunter Renfrow and Henry Ruggs and Nelson Aguilar and who's going to do it. So if we look at the most recent history for the Raiders and what they did in their last game, which is a win over the Broncos 37-12 at home, I can tell you that the receiving core started with Waller, then Ruggs, then Renfrow, and that's how I feel about it right now. And I would trust in Waller more than the other two. I'm going with Kansas City in this matchup. Final game that we have, Mr. Sofka, for the week in Week 11 of the NFL, the 2020-2021 season. I'm just so happy not only that we have a season, but that I'm talking about Week 11, and that we're talking about double-digit weeks. We got here. God is great. People are doing what we got to do. We're testing, and I'm just so happy, and I'm thrilled, and I really hope that things get better around the country, around the world, and that we are safe and sound and we get to enjoy the holidays, and that the worst thing about the holidays is Uncle Merle going to talk about politics. That's what I rue for those days. So, that's what I hope for and what I look for. And, definitely I'm wishing the best and praying the best for everybody. The Rams at the Bucks. I like this Monday night game. I like the Rams, in these Sunday, Monday night situations because you never know what you're going to get from them this year. I think this is a really cool marquee matchup. And it's East Coast, East Coast, West Coast on the East Coast. So I like it. And Tom Brady did what I thought he was going to do. That's why I played him this past week. I knew he wouldn't let himself get hit the way that he did, you know, and I don't mean literally, but the way he played was so bad 2 weeks ago that I was like, nah, this man's going to play pissed. He's going to get it back. And he did, and I think he got me like 54 points in fantasy. So what are your thoughts on the Rams at the Bucs?
Yeah, there's a lot of middle-of-the-road fantasy plays, but this should be a pretty good game. This should be a real good game. In fact, that I'm glad it is on a Monday night. Sometimes they have real stinkers there. I like Tampa. I like the way Tom Brady did bounce back. But the focus on this game is going to be Jalen Ramsey. And I think they did something very, very smart in Los Angeles. They've been moving him around, and he's been playing the slot guy more than not. But you got to think, wow, why would they do that? Well, a lot of NFL teams are shifting their focus to the slot receiver. Sometimes even their best receiver is playing in the slot. Well, Jalen Ramsey isn't going to come down from this throne as the self-proclaimed number one, and almost rightfully so, number one cornerback in the league. He's not going to, degrade his name by playing the nickel position, because that's like the third best cornerback on your team normally. What do? They renamed the position. It's now the star. He's the star guy. So Jalen Ramsey, he's attracted to being the star. That's what he wants. That's how he envisions himself. So that's why he's confident and happy in that role. Thus, you have guys getting shut down. Thus, you have not just one half of the field, but you got most of the field now that he's in that star position. He can roam around. Now, the offensive side of the ball is where most of the fantasy money is made for most people. So, with that being said, I don't know who I'm starting for the Rams here. I got Jared Goff at number 19 on the rankings. I got Darrell Henderson at 33 as a running back. Cooper Kupp's constantly a starter, and so is Robert Woods. So they're number 15 and 26 respectively. The tight end Tyler Higbee maybe 18 on the ranking this week, and so I don't feel real strong about any of those guys. I think Tom Brady's going to continue to make it happen. No, number 11 on the quarterback rankings. Ronald Jones, what a tremendous run last week, 98-yard run. Leonard Fournette out-touched him, but again, Ronald Jones had a great game last week. They're going to look to keep that 1-2 punch going. I got Ronald Jones 17 this week, Leonard Fournette number 23 on the rankings. The wide receivers have been a muddled, mired mess, and I'm going to throw something out there that I think not many people are talking about, and I've been thinking about it, and the more I think about it, the more I see. Chris Godwin, he had the broken finger, and he's muddled to get back to full strength. Mike Evans has been a shell of himself lately, and Antonio Brown is steadily clicking up as he gets more comfortable, as he gets better packages because he's more comfortable, as Tom Brady gets that relationship built back with him. Maybe Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are intimidated by Antonio Brown. Maybe their confidence is in question now because of Antonio Brown. So, again, just look at that situation. I'm not saying that's the case. It's just that's my thoughts right now as I'm looking at that scenario there. Gronk's relationship with Tom has been somewhat back on track. He's the number 10 tight end this week. But again, tight ends have been a little off track as a whole, so just keep that for what it's worth. I think that you're going to make some money with some Bucs players. I really think the Bucs are going to find a way to win this game. I think Tom Brady's going to help them find a way to win this game. Watch for Antonio Brown, though, to continue his ascent, and look for Mike Evans to possibly be the guy that Jalen Ramsey is put on, and thus he's going to have another subpar game. But I am going to take the Bucs at home.
Yeah, I think Ramsey's going to want, just for like the sheer attitude of them both, he's going to want Antonio Brown. But, obviously Mike Evans is going to be in that number one slot. Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson have done some good things out there. Darrell Henderson, I talked him up so much last year as a rookie. He's now earned back the starting role. And he is back there at this point right now. The numbers aren't great, but he's getting in the end zone, and so is Malcolm Brown. They're both worth the play in this game. Ronald Jones was out of his mind. Now, Mike said he had almost a 100-yard run, so that's like half of the yardage right there of his 192 yards, but not something you expect out of Ronald Jones. And Leonard Fournette's been really quiet. Ronald Jones, 23 carries. Leonard Fournette, 8 carries, 18 yards, 2.4 yards a carry. So I'd stay away from Leonard Fournette at this point, but to stay with the Rams, I like Henderson and Malcolm Brown. I don't think either one of them is an outright one on your running back list. I would hope you have better than this at this point, but I do think they're both running back 2s in fantasy. Robert Woods got to play on Cooper Kupp. Josh Reynolds, I think he's worth putting out there as a flex too. He could actually get you more points than either one of Kupp or Woods, as he did most recently here with what he was able to do when he pulled off 94 yards on 10 targets and 8 receptions to lead the team in their most recent game. On the other side of it, I would give the nod to Tom Brady. Ronald Jones in this game, I put him as a kind of mid-range running back too. I don't know what we're going to get out of him, but could this finally be the Ronald Jones that Tampa was hoping for? This Ronald Jones that was drafted in 2018 in round 2, pick 38, just 6 picks out of being in the first round out of USC. Could this be his moment? Well, for Tampa, they hope so. Godwin and Mike Evans are hard to keep off the field, but Antonio Brown's a sneaky little flex right now. And Mr. Gronkowski, I still think is worth putting out there, even though he's been somewhat underwhelming at times. I wouldn't trust him to win it all for you, but if you got a really good tight end that you're leaning on and you're going, I want to put him out there too, okay, well then not a bad choice. So I don't think he's terrible, but I, have Mark Andrews above him and then maybe Hunter Henry above him slightly as well. With that being said, Mr. Sofka, Buffalo, Chicago, the New York Giants, and the greatest thing to happen to San Francisco with 97 players on the COVID-19 or injured list is they get a break. So we will see them all on bye this week and see them after this. With that being said, I want to thank you for all that you do, and I want to thank you so much, as always, for being a part of the show.
Hey, I really appreciate it again, Dan. Thank you for the opportunity. And please, everybody, follow along with us on the Facebook group page, Winning Fantasy Football. You can check out, all the stuff we talk about week in, week out. It's an open forum. You can ask questions. You can talk. We can communicate. It's a great thing to do. And, you can always check me out as well at HallOfFameFantasyFootball.com. Thanks again, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.
All right, thanks.
And that coming from Mike Sofka. I want to give a big special thanks to Mr. Sofka for the Fantasy Football Power Hour, and a thanks to the Wildcat for supporting us with that. And we appreciate them so much. The place to watch all the games. And I found my way to the Wildcat each of the last, 12 weeks now, so between college and pro. So thank you to the Wildcat for being awesome and for your food and your atmosphere and playing all the games. I really do appreciate that. College and NFL and in general, just a great place to be. Tonight for the NBA draft, if you want to go out there too. A big shout out to the Wildcat, 3680 Milton Avenue in Camillus, New York. A big thanks to Julian Wiggum for the midweek blitz. And Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com, bringing you what's popping, the list of topics every single show. And you should get what's popping on their site. If you're going to go into the store in Liverpool and you're going to order the popcorn there, do it online and pick it up in the store, or have it delivered to you and get 20% off. You have to order online in order to get the 20% from me. So go to Ma and Pa's Popcorn.com, use the promo code DT20, that's DT20, and get 20% off any of your orders today. Make sure you're watching and listening to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, where you're listening, and watching on facebook.com/livenowdt. You'll also find our archives, and we've been adding stuff this week, and I'll continue to add things, so make sure you find our audio archives by searching Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, MixLR, iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Podbean, and iHeartRadio. And I think I said Spotify, but Spotify as well. And you can find our videos on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. A very special thanks to all of our proud partners in Central and Upstate New York. Now more than ever, it's important to hashtag support CNY. So go out and do it. Cafe Cubal, Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Avicoli's, Chick-fil-A Cicero, Honda City of Liverpool, Millhouse Market, Trapper's Pizza Pub, and Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn. Go to maandpazpopcorn.com and use the promo code DT20, and go to Avicoli's at myavicoli's.com and use the promo code AVS10 for 10% off there. In the meantime, find us on social media at WakeUpCallDT on Facebook, at CallDT on Twitter, and at WakeUpCall_DT on Instagram. Of course, on WakeUpCallDT.com, YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and many, many places, as we just mentioned. So thank you to Julian. Thank you to Mike. Join our Winning Fantasy Football group here on Facebook. And as always, God bless. No stress. Do your best. I love you all. And I send you all my best. Let's stay safe. Let's stay well. And I pray to God for an end to Corona, an end to all pain or hurt in your mind, body, heart, and soul, and guidance and guarding of us. Be well, everybody. Be good. Send you